was great seeing you last night at the Wheels Up dinner as well. That was
right?
a great spot, just a great spot. And I couldn't help but notice the man to your left was your quarterback, Russell Wilson.
I get invited. I think Russell was one of the hosts.
Yes.
They've got a couple hosts. And it wasn't a big party. It was more of a dinner.
Yeah.
I would say it was a dinner.
Sit-down. It was a sit-down, yeah.
And so I've met Russ before. I coached him in the Pro Bowl, and I'm anxious to get over and see him. I haven't seen him since I've become the head coach, and he's sitting with his wife, Sierra, but across from me is Joe Montana and his wife, Jennifer. And so I know Russ was wanting to talk a lot about like where we're going, and I kept like asking Joe, so on 2 jet flanker drive, how did you read this play? And because when I cut my teeth as a young coach in 97 and 98, it was under Ray Rhodes and John Gruden. They had come from that Bill Walsh, Mike Holmgren. They were in that tree. And so all the cut-ups that I had a chance to be a part of or watch, a lot of them were Joe Montana. And I still have these tapes, and these are like, when you pull these out, this is like the Bible. You open it up, and this is the way it was taught. And here he is, and I've met him before, but never had this chance to like.
Yeah, he's across the table. He was literally across the table.
Russ keeps nudging me, and I'm like, hold on. So, but it was a great event.
So you got a chance to just chat with Russ and just be there.
It was good.
Just hang and have a nice like normal hangout. It was pretty
absolutely.
cool. So the whole question was like, would you take the job based on what we saw from Russ last year, and why would you do that based on what we saw from Russ last year? So what do you say about what you saw from Russ last year?
I think this, at the very beginning of this process, the thing that was unique is when you're working for Fox and you're on a studio show, and you become possibly a candidate for these jobs, like they have to ask that question. And so we went in a direction where we just openly talked about it, whether it was Schrager or Glazier, and I said, look, this is where it's at. But the important triangle that I felt from experience was ownership and front office GM. And I had that, I had experienced that in a really, really positive way in New Orleans with the Benson family, Mr. Benson, the late Mr. Benson, Gail Benson, and then Mickey Loomis, who's a close friend to this day. Like that triangle to me is and was number one in this decision of if there was a right job. And then secondly, what's the culture and fan base like to the city? You want to go somewhere where it's important, and it was important in New Orleans for a lot of reasons, maybe even different than at the time, but man, it's important in Denver. And then lastly are the players, and so there's no perfect, but let's talk about it. It's a team that went 5-12. That's why there's an open job. Generally speaking, when a team underachieves or doesn't play as well as everyone expects, there's a lot of people with dirt on their hands, and we gravitate to the quarterback and the head coach.
Sure.
I know this. I know he works his butt off. I know he's going to train hard. All the other things that got out of I'm not interested in where they were, so there's going to be a car in the facility with no rear view mirrors on it, and it's a little just symbolic of where we're going. I believe in the system we have, but I also believe that we got to look closely at what's best for this team individually, and it starts with what does the quarterback do well? And two things that help quarterbacks are good defense and good running game. I think they played pretty good defense last year.
Yes, they did.
They struggled running the football.
And that was part of the issue, was that the defense was balling out and the offense wasn't holding its...
It's an issue. I was in New York when Foxy and Michael Strahan and Jesse Armstead, those guys were fantastic and the offenses were awful. And we finally flipped that script and we go to a Super Bowl.
Right.
So I think this... Look, Russell lives like 6 miles from Drew Brees in San Diego in the offseason. That's where his home is. And so this whole month, Drew is calling me saying, hey, when are you making a decision? This guy's wearing me out. And
Russ was wearing him out?
Well, Russ and Drew,
Russ was wearing Drew out. Okay, saying about you.
What's going on? And so I told Drew on the phone, I said, look, I'm going to make you assistant head coach of Del Mar Relations. You just handle that. But I think here's the thing. The challenge is the fun part. and I heard you talk about this. Like the challenge is the fun part, and you know, when we signed Drew in 06, everyone says, well, Miami failed the physical. No, they didn't fail the physical. They passed him on the physical, but they didn't offer. They were a little bit more leery with their offer, and we were much stronger with our offer because we had to. But the fun part is the challenge, and so I'm looking forward to working with him.
Is it as simple as, you know, Drew was deadly accurate, and Drew was also, I'll say it, vertically challenged, and that you have, and that
They're
Russ
different
is,
players.
Okay, and that Russ can just plug right into your.
They're different players. No, I think this is tweaked. The offense changes a little, and then we also have to be, you know, ready to adjust as we see it ourselves. But look, what we did with Kerry Collins in New York was different than what we did with Quincy Carter in Dallas or Vinny Testaverde. And then when we signed Drew, quickly we changed kind of we had a coach on our staff that was with Breeze in San Diego. That was a coincidence. And so we began using terms that he knew because it didn't matter to us. We were new. It's a little bit like a business startup. You know, that's the fun part.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, and then the huge narrative of last week, Sean Payton was the personal coach of Russ. You're not going to let him have that.
Look, I was asked the question about, you know, we did a press conference, and then we had this. We called
the scrum. The scrum on the side.
They called it a gaggle.
Yes. You had a gaggle. You did have a gaggle.
We're not calling it a gaggle anymore. And I love
your show now.
I love Patrick Smythe. Patrick's fantastic.
Patrick is great.
He's a stud.
He's been there for a long time.
So we had this gaggle, which means more questions. And so we're talking, and somebody just said, hey, you know, Russell's had a coach in the building, you know, helping him. Your thoughts on that? And I was honest. I said, I'm unfamiliar with that. I'm unfamiliar with what that looks like, which means I'm probably not going to do that. In fact, we're not going to do that. But that, like he said last night to me, he said, you know, I want to be coached hard. All these players want to be coached hard. They really do. And so, and creating that environment that's best for the team, and the accountability that's best for the team. There were a lot of things they didn't do well last year, and that falls on a lot of different people, and a lot of different people are gone.
So you didn't, in between the peas and prosciuttos and the Rayo's meatballs, didn't say to you, hey, I want my coach back?
No. Okay, there was no. I think it was pretty clear, so I don't think there was any. I don't feel.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
it was clear.
But listen, he was fantastic, and yeah, it was good.